over here. We're looking at, we're looking at the western wall. In the center of the western wall is a bridge. There's a bridge in the center. Earlier on, when we were told to just look out, it was too noisy there. We were standing the last small arch on the top level of this bridge, just underneath where the point is. The bridge is made out of 2 layers of arches. We were standing inside the last small arch, which meant that anyone that would be walking above the bridge originally would be walking above our heads. When you looked down through the window over there, you could look down to see things that were down on the street level beneath the arch. Okay, just at the bottom layer. Okay, so you could look down and see things at the bottom layer over there. So we were standing inside that bridge. That bridge was a bridge that connected between the residential areas of Jerusalem, which would be the other side of the bridge where we're sitting at right now, towards the temple. We've got another bridge, or more like a flyover, on the southern side of the wall, connecting the bottom street level up on top onto Temple Mount. So this street level running beneath the western wall was the main market street of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. If we speak of the main market street of Jerusalem in those days, speaking of a market street that 3 times a year, on 3 of the holidays, Sukkot, Pesach and Shavuot, when there's a command for the nation to gather in Jerusalem, it means that a majority, or different years, different amount of percentage, but a lot of the people would be coming on those 3 holidays to Jerusalem. And if you've got a main market street, this is where everyone's going to be bringing, apart from buying stuff in order to provide for themselves in Jerusalem, people are also going to be bringing their goods in order to sell in Jerusalem on those days. This turns the street into a very main financial center in those days in Jerusalem. We've got descriptions from Roman soldiers stationed in Jerusalem towards the end of the Second Temple, describing over 1 million people coming for some of those holidays. It turns us into one of the biggest financial centers in those days. If we take a look up on top of Temple Mount, we've got this structure that cuts across the whole southern side of Temple Mount. On the top floor of this long building over here, this is where the king had his quarters. When the king came to the temple, he had his quarters up on top over there. All the way on the northern side, we have an army fortress, one of the main military posts in Israel in those days. And if we start moving in closer towards the temple itself, past the western wall, reach a second wall, past the second wall, reach a third wall. Coming out of the third wall, we have 2 chambers. This chamber over here, the left-hand chamber, the northern one, is where the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court of those days, used to sit. That means before we speak of the temple itself, we've got 4 of the main institutes of those days. The Supreme Court, the military, the king, a big financial center. Life in Israel is generated from around this area 2,000 years ago. Add on to that the fact that 3 times a year the nation gathers around here, the massive religious social gathering in Jerusalem. And apart from that, if we take a look at the temple itself, when we're looking at the western side, looks like the back of the temple, but it's also the heart of the temple, the Holy of Holies. A section of the temple where only 1 day a year, only on Yom Kippur, only one person, the high priest, would walk inside there. And the entire nation, regardless of where they were physically, would be united around him spiritually when he went inside there in order to pray for the whole nation. And on different levels, the temple and Temple Mount united the nation. If it's around the high priest once a year, if it's 3 times a year gathering around here, and if it's throughout the whole year operating from around here. And as long as the nation was united, the temple stood. But the minute the nation was no longer united, instead of being united around the temple, we started fighting around the temple. That is when the Romans, 1,940 years ago, were able to break in, burn the temple, and send us out to exile. When we go out to exile, we make a vow. We take the phrase from Psalms, Mishkachech Yerushalayim, Tishkach Yemini, if I forget you, Jerusalem, may I forget my right hand. We make a vow to always remember Jerusalem. The way we remember Jerusalem is always through the western wall. Although all 4 walls surrounding Temple Mount still stand until today, we always came back to the Western Wall. The reason we came back to the Western Wall and not one of the others is because the Western Wall is the wall which is closest to the to the rock of foundation, to the Holy of Holies, to the reason that we always come back to Jerusalem. That is why whenever it's possible, people used to try and reach these sections in the center of the Western Wall in order to stand as close as possible to the original site of the Holy of Holies and pray. Over the years, what happens to the Western Wall, it slowly gets covered up with houses until 800 years ago we reached the situation that we're more or less familiar with nowadays, where the only section that is accessible along the Western Wall is the plaza outside. And that is why for the last 800 years, every story of Jerusalem, every picture of Jerusalem, everything is always focused at this small section. Are you joining us? Yeah. Okay, then come inside so you're able to see what we're speaking about. Because for the last 800 years, everything's been focused at that very small stretch of the Western Wall, to a level where people had already forgotten is that part of the retaining wall, is it part of the temple. People were just used to seeing pictures of that section with the radiant beneath it, something written beneath it saying the site of the Holy Temple, the Holy City of Jerusalem, and forgot what the story was all about. In 1967, when Israel liberates the old city of Jerusalem, the Israeli army runs across Temple Mount looking for the Western Wall. They'd totally forgotten what the story was all about, and left what was on top in order to find the retaining wall surrounding it around. What's happened ever since then, they started excavating all around Temple Mount. And what we're doing now, we started coming inside through all of these tunnels that are lit up now. And we came in the whole way, so we're sitting down with that small light is on right now. You can see the light is in a room. At one of the walls of that room, the wall straight opposite that light is the Western Wall. You can see the Western Wall directly across from us. And what we're going to be doing now, we'll walk towards the Western Wall. We'll walk along a tunnel that will take us along the Western Wall. We're sitting now opposite this arch in the light in the tunnel. We'll continue. We'll reach the section that is directly opposite the Holy of Holies. We'll continue walking. We'll see how the whole northern area is carved into the bedrock. The white light, or the original line of the mountains of Jerusalem. The whole northern area is carved into the rock. We'll also be able to see the original street level. The red light are the original street level of Jerusalem. Before we do that, we'll take another look at how things used to look around here originally. We're going to experience now the whole time walking in closed areas, some of them slightly narrow. They spent a lot of money around here, making everything look very ancient, dim lighting and stuff like that. But all of this is a modern story from only 800 years ago. All of these arches were built 800 years ago by the Muslims in order to create a new street level above our heads. 2,000 years ago, the story around here is totally different. Everything is all open areas to allow the entire nation to gather around here for the different celebrations, for the holidays. You had to allow massive open areas. That is what used to be around Temple Mount in those days. Any questions before we move on towards the Western Wall?